Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very, very special edition of the Juice Box. I, of course, am Juice Springsteen, and this is a video show. So to my left or right, however you want to look at it, we have the one, the only shill of shills, the bald and the beautiful Mr. Clean, even though sometimes he can get dirty. He's the one, the only CEO of Final Bell Media, Andrew Baydala. Drew, welcome to the Juice Box, buddy.
Juice, it's been a long time coming, but that was probably the best intro I've ever gotten. So thank you. Yes, Chief Shill, whatever you want to call me, on the payroll, off the payroll. I just wish some people would get on somebody's payroll. All right.
I wish I was on the payroll.
For all you Muppets on social media, get on somebody's payroll.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be on somebody's payroll, but unfortunately, Drew, this is a free gig for you, buddy. So welcome to the Juice Box. It's been a long time coming. This is episode, I think, 102 whenever it comes out, and finally you're getting on. So
I owe you a couple, man. You did us a couple solids with the WCW show. I thought that was really well done. We appreciate that. And I'm happy to do it. And truthfully, anything I do is free. I don't put anything behind a paywall. So when you told me, hey, you want to jump on here? I was like, sure, absolutely.
That's right. It's free. I'm not getting paid for this. Of course. Well, I got time. I got time to kill.
Well, you're good people. I've known you for a while. So
you know what? That is, I thought about that the other day. We've known each other, what, before New Orleans at Mania 34?
Yeah.
Or was it at New Orleans? I
don't remember. I think I've met you before that. I think I met you in Dallas at a tailgate, and then I think in Orlando as well.
I don't know about the Dallas tailgate. Maybe the well, if you did, I don't remember it.
We definitely crossed paths in Dallas because I remember crossing the street and you were across the street, and I was like, Juice, because I've known you through Justin LeBar. And I know, CSR, and I did a show with Justin when I think CSR was all said and done, and then you guys came back and whatnot.
I know. Yeah. Care shot.
Yes.
R.I.P.
Yeah. But then Orlando, I was supposed to be at the Adam Cole pre-party and had some stuff that I needed to take care of, and I missed you guys there. I think we hung out officially or whatever in New Orleans. Yes. And then my most vivid memory is we were at a bar, and I was texting you, and I was like, dude, I watched WCW, but you're the WCW guy. And we sat at that bar, got sushi, and drank, and you were like, this is the show you should watch. That's the show you should watch. And I was like, all right, cool. So those good times, good memories for me.
Yeah, I feel like that had to have been, it was in the South Side. I think I know what bar it is, but I can't recall off the top of my head. I've been to quite a few bars with you, LeBar, all those guys. Like that's all what we do. It's just talk wrestling and have a good time. So and that's what we're here to do today. A day out from All Out, AEW. They did, last year they kind of, let's do 2 weeks in a row. And I thought that was nuts. All in, all out, really quick turnaround. They chose this time, hey, let's space it out. Bash in Berlin's going to happen to fall in between it. Maybe that was the reason, maybe not. But we got All Out. Drew, just in general, coming off All In, thoughts on that show, how TV's looked, and do you think this has been a sufficient build to All Out here on Saturday?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do believe that the build has been better this year than last, although last year's show was, in my opinion, shockingly good. When I was, when I ordered the pay-per-view and we sat outside on the deck and, hung out and had a party for it at my house, I didn't attend. It normally falls around my kid's birthday, my twin, so I stay back as I try and be the best father I possibly can.
Wow, how dare you put AEW in the rear view for your kids?
Right.
Come on.
So this year, I thought it was very proactive of them to take the show and be like, all right, let's build this back a week so we can get more television, more build. But I really do believe that when WWE announced Bash at Berlin, and you led with that, because they announced it like a year in advance, WWE did. I think it was smart for AEW to move it. And again, I think this year's build, I mean, besides some of the stuff that was thrown together on Wednesday, let's just call a spade a spade. I think a lot of the stuff they've done for this show, there's a lot of momentum and a lot of buzz around it. I mean, Hangman and Swerve, MJF and Garcia, and I mean, even Will and Pac. Like, I'm here for
Oh
those
yeah.
3 matches. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need any sort of story to get me into Pac and Will Ospreay. I was cool with the reverse Hurricane Rana just on the stage, like, oh, I'm still here.
Yeah, and they did a really good job of that. And to answer your question further, I just think that it was smart because realistically, the Labor Day stuff, even though WWE did it, they did it in another country. When you're in Chicago on Labor Day or in the United States, a lot of people, I go to my lake house, we fish, we hunt, whatever we're doing at that time. So for us, it's just family time. I think it's best AEW stays away from that holiday in the States. And I understand they've done well before, but I think it was time for me at least.
For sure. And I mean, I saw the rumor, I'm sure you did too, that the NFL could be going to Labor Day weekend and starting the year off that way, which
That's
means
a different animal.
Well, that's what I'm saying. No wrestling will take place on Labor Day then. I guess
Right.
it'll just be football, So
yeah, the NFL, whatever market they want to get into and corner, they're going to completely corner it and they're going to shut everybody else out. I mean, the WWE could, but I mean, UFC is really not even doing much during the holiday weekends anymore because they just see that it's really tough to get people to get away from their families now. Ever since 2020, I think things have changed. Unless you absolutely make people or give people a reason to get out of plans or their house or whatever during that weekend, it's just not going to happen.
Absolutely. And, I'm looking forward to this show. I mean, I thought All In was pretty good, and say how many people were there or not, we've had this conversation. I don't think, 46,000 is anything to sneeze at. The whole company was built on not being able to sell 10,000, and now we're like, oh, well, they didn't get 50. Like, what?
When did you?
A lot. Like, what are we doing here? It's haters, is what it is.
I don't understand, and I get it. I get it because on one side, AEW did make a big deal about ratings and demos and everything else like that. So we had the ratings wars, quote unquote, for however, and it's still something everyone talks about. I get it. The ratings and the demos really only matter to the people who are buying the media rights and who are interested in those. Realistically, myself and you, we don't really plant any flags, so it doesn't matter to us. It's not like, we won. It's not like our team went out on Wednesday and got a victory. And AEW did make a big deal about last year's All Out or All In and the attendance. So I get it, but for me, if I'm not directly affected by this, I don't care. Like, I just want to see good wrestling and I want the place to be packed. And for me, on pay-per-view, it looked very, very good and it looked packed. Yeah. So
exactly. And I think that's all that people have started making the claim, WWE is not even a wrestling company. It's a TV company that sells wrestling and t-shirts, and like it's a brand.
Spot on.
If it looks good on TV, I mean, if you're there, I'm sure it looked great and whatever. But if you're watching on TV, I don't care if there's so many blocked off or blacked out. I mean, how many shows in any entertainment realm have that? They all do.
They don't. They're gonna hide that. Obviously, everyone made a big deal about the tarps and stuff like that. I mean, I remember going to WWE shows and there were plenty of those tarps and blocked off sections. And now WWE's white hot and they're selling the hard cam side, which normally was completely like tarped off for the cameramen and the crew and everything else like that. So again, if it looks good on TV, if it looks good, tastes good, smells good, you're going to buy it, right? So for me, it looked good and that's all that matters. I don't know. I think a lot of people now have too much time on their hands and they're taking pictures of the venue before people get in.
Right.
And it's just like,
love that trick.
Yeah, it's like, all right, we get it. Like, I don't know what these people, and I don't know what they gain from it. Like, I don't know.
Engagement farming. It's just people blowing up a tweet. But look at how I was at SummerSlam. There was plenty of the top spots tarped
57,000.
Who cares? 57,000 is a huge number.
And the show,
made a boatload of money.
Yeah, and the show was well received. It was a really good show from my perspective. And I will say that, it's crazy because wrestling now is kind of in the stadium business. WWE is 1,000% in the stadium business. But look at AEW, Australia, the United Kingdom with London, England. I mean, all this stuff. I mean, they're Texas.
Grand Slam.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's just like we're in a time right now, kind of the Renaissance period of professional wrestling or era, and they're doing stadium shows at both companies.
Right. And before we do dive into this card, I want to mention one more thing. Great friend of the show, friend of yours, friend of mine, Busted Open's own Justin LaBar mentioned, they haven't released anything outside of the date for the first Raw on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Could you see it going to a stadium if they have matches to back it up? Because, and I don't want to just use this term all the
Sure.
time, but this is an unprecedented show. It's always been on TV forever. It coincides with my life. It's January 93. That's when I was born. And now it's on the OG streaming service.
Hold on. You
It's a
weren't
huge
born on
deal.
the debut of Raw, were you?
No, I was born on the 28th. So like
Okay.
2
All
weeks
right.
in.
Got it. All right.
But yeah, could it be a stadium if they promote it right with a huge match or two?
Juice, honestly, I think WWE can go anywhere and they would sell, 20, 30,000 seats with a blink of an eye, especially if you put Cena on the card where he's wrestling. He'll be there.
He'll be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be. I've heard of the locations they're kicking around. It's kind of the WrestleMania 3. It's New York, it's Chicago, it's LA.
WrestleMania
2, I'm sorry, right. 3 was the Pontiac Silverdome, brother.
That's right.
So yeah, the WrestleMania 2, where it's the major markets. I've heard Texas, I've heard California, I've heard New York, I've heard Chicago. What I think is going to happen is I think you need to look where Netflix is based out of, and I think it'll probably be West Coast based for me. I know they have offices in New York and stuff like that, but I believe the headquarters are out west. So I would say that if I'm betting, there's a new building that the Clippers are playing in.
Yeah. Okay.
Could be. That was a rumor for Survivor Series. That's in Vancouver, which is brilliant. Thanksgiving weekend here in the States, not over in Canada. Brilliant. WWE just continues to just do brilliant business. But I could see it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to put this out on Twitter here in a little bit. X, whatever the hell you want to call it. I think Raw is going to 2 hours.
Whoa. For Netflix once it starts.
Yeah. I think 2 hours is that sweet spot. I think the flow of the show more recently has me watching 3 hours of their content. Raw has been fantastic to watch, but I do think that they're going to put 2 hours on Netflix and maybe they flip the 3 hours to SmackDown.
Ooh, because they could do it. They could get away with it, and SmackDown hasn't had that chance to breathe.
And you need more talent there. Yeah, and you need to understand what you do because you're very smart and you've been around the business for a while. Where they're going to make more money with ads, revenue, all that other stuff would be on television. So why not add the other hour to USA Network? That's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, if that were to happen, do you think that? I mean, obviously, it would have to happen well before the first airing. But I mean, would it just be a huge announcement or?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that. The date is what, January 6th or something like that? Okay. Yep. So I think Raw is going to be on Monday that day. I am not certain that Raw will stay Monday for the totality of this deal. Okay. I'm not fairly certain that that's what happens. It really depends on what Netflix wants. I think right now we're going to be in that Monday night, Raw type of stuff, not Monday Night Nitro, like I like to call it. Monday Night Raw. 1000% will be on Monday. I think for the couple episodes of Raw, I don't know if they'll switch it during peak Mania season. Maybe it's after, maybe April-ish. But yeah, I think that Raw will be 2 hours and SmackDown will go to 3. And I think it's the right call because Netflix really isn't going to gain anything by having that extra hour. The USA Network and NBCU could potentially gain some revenue by adding that hour onto that deal. So
true. Wow. 3 hours for SmackDown, 2 hours for Raw not being on TV anymore. What is going on?
Hey, you got to love it, right? I mean, this is what everybody wanted, but I will tell you, don't expect the F-bomb to be dropped a million times on Netflix. They're going to be a little bit looser, but I just don't think it's going to be F this, F that. The WWE knows its core audience and it's a there's some adult-based content and angles, but it's more so a family-oriented show. That's why my kids can watch WWE for the most part, minus the bitch and the ass stuff that they say without me having to worry. Whereas AEW, although I love their content, is more, I think, for the 18 plus crowd.
And don't tell Dwayne that. He'll be F-bombing the first. He'll be the first guy on there. He'll curse the whole thing.
You know what's good about Dwayne, though?
Good buddy, Dwayne.
Yeah, DJ. Yeah, friend of the show, DJ. You know what's good about him is when he does get into those modes where it's fuck that and all this. Can we curse here? I already did. So
too late.
Yeah.
But whatever.
When he does the F-bombs and everything else like that, it is normally past the 10 p.m. hour. They normally save that for later. So my kids are already in bed. When he kicks off the show, it's maybe a bitch or an ass here, but it's really never a go F yourself type of stuff until later on. So,
well, they bleeped out the whole entirety of the final part of the Bryan Danielson promo here recently.
I thought you were going to talk about Fox. Like,
God, that's a whole nother episode. I'm so sick of that.
I love Fox.
Yeah,
I love what they've done. The 2 million views and the exposure they've given to WWE with the cross promotional stuff with the NFL. It's priceless for WWE.
It's crazy,
priceless.
Yeah.
But the dead air, the no volume because of the cursing or the chants or the blackouts, I cannot wait to be done
out
with
the screen
because some kid's got his middle fingers up to me, it's just like, okay. Like, you knew what you bought. Don't buy
it. That's right. Don't buy it then. You know what you bought. You
shouldn't have bought it in the first place. They're not. But it's hard to digest the segment when I don't know what the hell's going on.
I know. You got to run to Twitter and find out what happened there. Push their Twitter numbers. So, but hey, we're here for AEW. Let's talk AEW. All Out. It's going to be in Chicago. We don't know if it's going to be a sellout. Probably won't be, but it's, I'm sure that'll be the discourse instead of this great card that we're going to discuss. So you can't win. You can't win if you sell out a bunch and your pay-per-view sucks. If you don't sell out and your pay-per-view is great, you can't win if you're AEW. But
and their media rights hasn't been announced, which everyone thinks.
That's your fault.
Well, yeah, right. Imminent. But I will say this,
Mr. Imminent, Drew Baydala.
Tony did kind of, I think, slip a little bit yesterday where he said,
yes,
deal's done. And I was like, wait a second.
Really? He didn't tell me.
Right. Deal's done. I was just like, I got to go back and watch this. Did you actually, is that what, I got to listen to this. Is that what, because I thought I heard that. And then, we talked about how the distribution for North America for Grand Slam has not been announced yet for Australia. And I was like,
Yeah.
Because it's going to be part of a streaming package on your media rights deal, correct? But you only get one question, and I try to maximize what I do on those media calls. I layer my questions, and I try and let Tony take what he wants out of my question, and then kind of give us nuggets, and he does. I love everybody who's on there. Good job. Go do what you got to do. Go make a living. But you'll never catch me asking storyline-driven questions unless I can gain something from it in terms of product.
Of course. It's all about questions that you might know sort of an answer, but but with how you phrase it, they're probably going to give you a lot more and maybe stuff not even related to it that you don't have to ask and make the most, like you said. As a question. That's a very good journalistic thing of you to do, even though you're not a journalist.
I'm an opinionist. I don't have a journalism degree. Right. My degree is in sports management, and I have a minor in psychology. So there you go.
Oh, that's honestly scary. Psychoanalyzing wrestling fans, Mr. Ticket Drew.
Well, I will say that it's helped me in my business career for sure. And I will also say that it's very helpful in terms of getting questions answered that you want to have answered. So
that's right. You know how to do it. That's right. You do a very good job. Again, as CEO of Final Bell Media, as we like to refer to you here on the show. I always just say good friend of the show, but now you're on the show. You're a celebrated guest on the show, and hopefully
happy to be here.
Many more. Yeah,
I would love to do more of these. Anytime you want to do AEW in a preview show, predictions, or talk about AEW, I'm here for it.
And we shall. And we're going to do it right now. Let's get into this thing, man. 8 matches on this card. We don't know what's going to open. I know you like doing your little preview guesses of where you want to lay out things on the card. And those seem to, get a lot of people talking where they love just nailing you to the cross if you don't get the first match correct. And it's not even the result of the match. It's just, well, I think MJF and Garcia will be the first match. No, it's the second match. Oh, yeah. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, that's always the beauty of social media and X, right? A lot of people, in my opinion, again, the psychology, they don't know how to navigate these people who just want to elicit a response from you, right? So it's like, how can I make Drew mad? I'm never going to tell you. Truthfully, I'm never going to tell you, and I'm never going to show you that because then I know you'll hammer it. So I'll kill you. I'll kill you with kindness, and that's what I try and do. And for me, the match prediction cards were fun and still are fun. I pretty much nailed All Out or All In. Again, all the All Ins, All Outs.
It's tough.
Yeah. I pretty much I nailed the opener, and then I was off by one match because Tony and Mariah May was second. And in my opinion, that should have never happened. But
That's
hey,
right.
seems like we're living in the CEO's world, not mine. So yeah, I enjoyed them and they're fun. I know that this card, there's no doubt about it, Juice, that Strickland and Paige is the main event.
That I think I can agree on, and I think we'll be correct, even though it's not the world title. But we'll get to why that may not be the main event.
Right.
Eventually, let's start off with the CEO singles match. AEW TBS title. Camille banned from ringside. Mercedes Moné defends her championship against Hikaru Shida. Looking forward to this match. I think the in-ring will be great. I mean, Moné could benefit from not talking a lot, and now she's got a heater who's not going to talk either. And I'm a fan of Camille. I've been a fan of her since she was in NWA. I remember early COVID NWA Power was a great treat, and I loved watching that stuff. And look, LA Knight was there, and some of these other talents that are now fully in WWE or AEW kind of had a big deal there in NWA. So getting Camille on a major company is really nice, but she's not even going to be at ringside for this. One-on-one, I've got Moné retaining. I don't know when she's going to drop that thing. Drew, what say you?
Yeah, no shocker here. Moné will retain. I like that Camille is banned from ringside just because it adds a different dimension. They're going to kind of play up that's the only reason why Mercedes gets the victories, because she has her heater with her. I love Camille. I think Camille's going to be a big star. I think putting her with Moné was the right move. I understand the brick house is something she had from NWA, but she doesn't need it, in my opinion. Every time I hear it, I think of the song, and that's not anything against her. She's just fine the way she is.
Yeah.
The Shida match is going to be good. Moné is crossing off, the opponents I believe she wants to have matches with. Mercedes retains.
Is that the way to go about it, by the way? Let me cross off people I want to face, and let's be real. She's not going to lose the title.
No, and that's the thing. Right now, it's like, who does Mercedes end up dropping the TBS championship to? Because she's eventually going to make her way to that world championship, the women's world championship. When? I think maybe after a full year of her wrestling here in AEW, then they could push her into that, title picture. But for me, who is she going to drop the championship to? I don't know. The Britt Baker stuff seems to be done. I think they should move on from it. Sheeta's obviously an opponent she wants to wrestle, her being Mercedes Moné, so I'm here for that. But I would love to see almost very reminiscent of what they did with Mariah May and Tony. I'd like to see Camille turn on Mercedes at one point and take that TBS championship.
Do you think, you said handpicked earlier for that, do you think handpicked is what Camille was? As, hey, this person's coming in, I could see not only her being on my side and growing her and growing our characters, but at some point getting the flip and Camille going after the title. Whether, I don't know who would be the heel or face in that particular set of circumstances, but I think Camille could go for that TBS title, like similar to a Jade Cargill. I very similar.
I think Mercedes is best served as a heel, just like I think MJF is as well, but it really depends on the story, and AEW needs to continue to hammer their stories. I think they've done a real good job with some of them here. The Mercedes Shida stuff is not my favorite. I'll be honest with you. I really haven't been able to sink my teeth into anything that Mercedes has done besides the Stephanie Vacour stuff, which she is long gone now.
And that turned into a WWE sign.
Right. And I liked the Britt Baker stuff the week of All In, because I think that was the best thing that I had seen them do since they were going to have that match. But for me, I think Mercedes needs to get herself into a long program so that she could sink her teeth into something with somebody and they can elevate the women's division here. Because right now it just seems like, Mercedes is just running through people. And I don't think that's the way to go about it.
Right. And it's not that it's making the rest of the talent look less than, but it's like, okay, Britt lost. Shida, let's just say she loses, lost. How somebody has to get momentum to then make it worthy of beating Moné at some point. But until then, it's just, like you said, mowing down the competition. Who's good then?
Right. And the thing here was, like, a lot of people, that's what, it worked with Roman because Roman was the guy and it was Roman Reigns. If Mercedes is trying to go on a Roman Reigns-esque run here in AEW where she's holding all the gold and all this and just completely dominant, it's going to fall flat. because Mercedes needs to understand that Roman Reigns thing had so many layers built into it and so many things built into it. They had family turmoil. Then it was Kevin. Then it was Cody once, and then they came back to it to finish the story. Mercedes should not be running through every opponent like Roman did, because it's not even close to the same story.
No, and I shudder to see the people that make that comparison.
It's again, Mercedes has a ton of talent, and she's very, very good at what she does. But I do believe that Mercedes would benefit by sinking her teeth into a program with a talent and elevating that talent, because everybody she has gotten to the ring with right now, minus Stephanie Vacour, what have they done?
Right. And the Vacour match, after this match and whoever, she eventually goes against or Mercedes Moné goes against, Vacour might be the best match she had, and she can't have that match unless she goes back to WWE.
I was ringside for that on Long Island, New York, and I was floored at how good Stephanie Vacour was. I see why WWE raced to get her on their roster, and smart on them. Stephanie Vacour, I've said this, I think is going to be a giant superstar in WWE, in the wrestling industry as a whole too.
And I mean, the women's rosters just increase. Julia coming to NXT, and NXT already loaded as is. Charlotte Flair is going to come back. Who knows what Becky's going to do? And then on the women's side in AEW, like we said, all these different women that Mercedes has mowed down. I'm looking forward to who's next or who's left really to go against Moné.
Good old Goldberg, huh?
Yeah. Well, she's on a streak.
You got to get your WCW stuff in there. I get it.
Oh, anytime I get a chance to pull up some WCW,
the best WCW T-shirt collection in the game.
Oh, me? You talking to me? That's very nice of you, Drew.
Yes.
So appreciate that. Let's. So we're both in agreement. Moné is going to win this.
Yeah.
I think it's a safe bet if you're betting. Let's go to the AEW Continental Championship match now. This is, as of this recording, Kazuchika Okada defending against 3 unnamed opponents, but let's just guess via the matches ahead of time. Takeshita, Orange Cassidy, and Mark Briscoe?
Yeah. Look at the big brains on us. Yes, I think those are the 3. I think those are the 3 guys that take on Mr. Okada. Okada's a star. God, is he a star. And I understand he might not have the English language down, but
that's the point, though. They make the most of it.
Right. I need Kazuchika Okada to get into another person. Major signing. I want him to sink his teeth into a feud. I think Takeshita is that guy, and I can't wait for it.
I would agree. I think Takeshita's pretty underrated, if that's even possible. I think he had arguably one of the best matches all year. Was it with Will Ospreay?
Yep. And then he had a good match with Moxley.
Yes. And Takeshita just kind of blew me away. He kind of came out of left field and has really done a lot. He did really well in the G1. He didn't win, but did really well for himself. And that's kind of like a benchmark to see where your career is going to go. With Okada, I said this about Kenny Omega. I've said it about the Young Bucks. Guys that were never on week-to-week TV finally getting a chance to get week-to-week and grow and have character growth. And it's not just them having great matches. And for the Young Bucks, I saw you kind of glance at that, but I think it's taken some time. But I like their character work now that they've finally honed into it. But it's nice seeing Okada week to week. He is a character. He's a character. He's hilarious. He likes Mercedes Moné too. I
like what the Bucks have leaned into more recently, where they're like, oh, well, some of our very limited dates, I like that from Matthew and Nicholas. And I like they're playing up these EVP roles and all that other stuff. With Okada, I think he's got everything you would want. I think he puts on great matches. He could be very short, but, punctual with his stuff, his promos. The Takeshita stuff for me, Takeshita's a star. He just really is. And he's somebody that AEW should put the focus on. I know they will. I thought he was going to beat Moxley for the IWGP World Championship. He didn't. It's okay. But I think that they didn't put the championship on him because he's an AEW contracted talent who's probably allowed to work with other promotions, including New Japan and others. But man, this future is so bright with Takeshita, in my opinion.
Right. So I'm going to say that Takeshita does not win here, but I think that he has a great showing, potentially even hitting a huge move on a Orange Cassidy or Briscoe, but not getting the pinfall to where it could set up that Okada Takeshita match, which that could be a very intriguing matchup one-on-one on a pay-per-view, or, what, Grand Slam? Could they do it there?
They could. Again, to your point, I think Takeshita has a strong showing on Saturday. Obviously, I think Kazuchika Okada is going to retain his championship, but they could. I think Okada, correct me if I'm wrong, that Continental Classic's probably going to come up very shortly because it ran about a month. I think they started in November and it ended in December. So
yeah, do you think they're going to run that back, or
oh yeah, they are.
Would that just be for the number one contendership to that championship?
So from what I had been told and what I read on social media, which you have to take with a grain of salt, but I think Tony Khan also talked about it. I think Kazuchika Okada, if he is the champion at that time, will have to enter that Continental Classic to, retain. But it's kind of, at that point, I think it's kind of convoluted. Like, keep the champion out, gets everybody else in, and then the winner could face Kazuchika Okada at World's End in Orlando, which works. For me, if you want to really have, because it's basically AEW's version of the G1, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, have Takeshita have a fantastic showing in that, win it, take on Okada, and then Takeshita can win that Continental Classic championship at World's End. That's what I would do, but who knows?
Yeah, I'd like to see, him earn the championship instead of just being like, hey, you want a title shot? Oh, okay, I'll give it to you. We've seen that recently.
The other thing here is, where's Claudio? Like, Claudio and Okada had a time limit draw, right? Where's right. And I understand the Lucha Bros are probably on their way to, WWE, and I'm sure they had plans for the trios titles and everything else like that, because Pac and the BCC makes no sense. But, I just wish that Claudio and Kazuchika Okada can lock up soon, maybe at Wrestle Dream. Who knows?
Yeah, we got Wrestle Dream in the distance, and that's going to be a dream match card filled. You would seemingly point out there as we get closer to that. But we both think Okada will take this one then unanimously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Okada gets the victory here. I think the reign continues. I think the first time you see Okada's reign threatened will be by Takeshita, I think, in the Continental Classic going towards World End for that title. But I think Okada's going to hold this championship for at least another 2 months for sure.
A long reign for the Rainmaker. How you like that? All right, let's move forward to, we brought up the Young Bucks earlier, at least I did. They will be defending the AEW World Tag Team titles against the aforementioned BCC, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta. I don't know. I still think the Elite's going to hold, the championships for as long as they can. Jack Perry's not defending his title, so he'll continue to have a reign. I think the Young Bucks retain here, but I will say this will probably be a standout match based on just the matchups alone. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
the Bucks are going to hold on to the gold. Obviously, this match was kind of thrown together. I get it. You get Claudio, and you get it's Claudio and Yuta.
Yeah, and just real quick, that's the problem you run into with a show 2 weeks after a huge show that you've built up for over a month. It's like, what do we have left?
Truthfully, with this one, Juice, if I had some pull creatively, which I don't, I would say I would just have the Bucks ringside for Perry's match. They could be on commentary. Like, they could have taken that night off. They could have really played into, we're getting the night off. I'm going to be honest. I don't think a lot of people understand. I'm always honest, but I'm going to maybe say something that a lot of people don't understand here. I don't believe that the boys and girls get any sort of pay-per-view residual checks from AEW. I don't think that's part of the game.
I would probably agree, purely because, and I don't know this, but the contracts are
large,
pretty sizable, so they don't really need it.
So for me, it's like, do we need the Bucks on a pay-per-view? We don't. I mean, don't get me wrong, but the Bucks
are the champions, though. So
right, but I mean, then put them in a program with somebody who's an actual tag team, like Yuta and Claudio are the trios champion. I get it, but for me, it's like, okay, I think we missed the opportunity with Claudio and Okada. That probably should have been the match. People are like, what about Cassidy? It's like, okay, you have this conglomeration. Why don't you throw Cassidy and Mark Briscoe against the Young Bucks? I mean, that makes you. I don't know. The Bucks aren't losing this. Jack Perry's going to hold on to that TNT title because he's obviously not defending it. And again, Okada holds on to his Continental Championship. The Elite's got to hold on to all their gold. The Bucks have beaten everybody. Like, who are they going to take on next? The grizzled young veterans? Okay, well, they're going to beat them too. They're going to beat them too. It's just
you don't seem too high on the AEW tag division at the present time.
I think the AEW tag division is one of the best tag divisions ever in professional wrestling, and I say used to be one of the best tag team divisions in professional wrestling. They have so much talent, but it's like FTR and the Bucks have faced each other 90,000 times. I love FTR. Don't get me wrong, their matches always hit. But for me, I'm hoping for something else. The Lucha Bros are gone. So it's like that's a big hit to the tag division, in my opinion.
Do you think it's watered down because of the trios title? I've been saying that for a while, where, like you said, you get a trios title, you are taking two guys that could be in a tag team. Like, I just always think of the House of Black. Malachi Black is way better off doing single stuff. And then you have two other guys that could represent the team and go for tag titles. But instead, you have to utilize all three. It takes away a single and it takes away a tag team, leaving them kind of to just FTR and the Young Bucks every week.
Yeah, if I had some creative sayings to pull, I would remove the AW Trios titles from existence. I'd only have it in Ring of Honor. I think that could work in Ring of Honor. If you want to work on that stuff there, go for it. You want to have some trios matches, you want to appeal to that demographic and to give that flavor of ice cream to some fans, fine. But I agree with you. I think the tag team division would be best served just having the tag team championships, not two different tag team titles, because the trios I know are trios, but realistically it's like, okay, we got these three guys who should be in a tag team holding the trios titles, who should be wrestling for the tag team titles. And it's just a lot. It's a lot. There's too many championships. There really is. Will's got one. Okada's got one. Danielson's got one. Perry's got one. There's a lot. There's a lot of titles, man.
Pac's got one. 2 women's titles.
Right. The funniest thing for me is that, like, people are like, oh, with the media rights, since we're talking about championships, the media rights. I mean, how funny would it be if, and it's not going to happen. That's why I laugh at people. AEW is going to be on Warner Brothers Discovery. They have a TNT and a TBS championship. What are they going to retire them and rename them? No.
Yeah, that's a great point. People overlook stuff like that because it's not that it couldn't happen, but then if it does, tell me what you have to do. They'd have to retire them, name them something else, and I don't think they want to weave through that. They'd rather just let's take a little less money with WBD so that we can keep our titles, because it looks way too insane to just we got to change the titles. It's gone, lineage over.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that are done to keep a lot of people happy in terms of talent. Like,
absolutely,
I believe that Will Ospreay, which we'll get to since we're talking about other things. I think that Will probably was going to win the world championship sooner rather than later, and they were like, all right, let's put a different championship on him so that he could elevate that and he could still be viewed as a champion. All this other stuff. I think there's a lot to that. There's just a lot of championships, man. I really like what WWE has done with their titles besides the NXT brand. I think the NXT brand has way too many championships.
They're doing their own AEW with North American women's title and tag titles. But hey, they don't have an Owen Hart and Continental.
I'm glad that the people who won those things, year after year, don't come out with them weekly, because it would just be like, what's happening? The championships. It's just,
I know. Well, they have made, I don't know where it's at in the production, but for action figures, I think Britt Baker's one has it, and then Adam Cole, they come with the Owen Hart title, and I think one of them might have the trophy as well. But
good for them. That's a way to sell action figures
incentive.
And everything else. Yes. But absolutely. I don't need to see those championships make their way onto regular scheduled programming for me.
No. So we think the Young Bucks are going to win then, pretty unanimous.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. No way.
No doubt in our minds. Let's go to the Chicago street fight next. Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale. I am just thrilled finally that we get a women's match, not even for a championship, on an AEW pay-per-view. All too often, it's relegated to the pre-show. It's not even on there. There's only 2 matches, and it's only the title matches. There's so much depth for the women's roster on AEW. And now we get some sort of payoff, and I like Stokely Hathaway. I think he's a great piece in all of this as that Clarence Mason type character, in there. I don't know what to really expect from this, but I hope, and I'm thinking Chris Statlander walks away as the winner of this Chicago street fight.
This is Long Island on Long Island Crime, which I'm never a fan of. Two Long Island girls going at it. Really happy for their success. I think Willow's one of the best in the division. Same thing goes with Stat. But for me, I'm going to disagree with your stance on the women's on the pay-per-view because they had 2 major matches on All In. And I understand, there could have been more, but realistically, I think AEW has done a better job recently of putting the women as a focal point on their pay-per-views. And I do understand there's been a lot of times where the show kicks off the pre-show, whatever, and it's a women's match. I get it. But even on Forbidden Door, I'm trying to go back to another pay-per-view. They really have done a good job of showcasing the women more recently.
Yeah.
There's only, there's 2 women's matches on this pay-per-view as well. There could have been a third. I'm a little upset that Mariah May's not on this. Maybe we get an announcement tonight. Who knows? No Tony Storm either. For me is a miss. But Chicago Street Fight, Stat, Willow, they're going to put on a good match. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to go with Willow. I think Willow continues to build herself up. And I think Willow and Mercedes might have another date sooner rather than later. If not, I could see Willow trying to get after Mariah May too. So we'll have to wait and see.
And that would be intriguing. And we've been talking about that, like who's going to be the one to take it off Monet. I mean, the battles with her and Willow have been well documented. So it would be intriguing to see maybe that's where they go. But again, it's like the FTR Young Bucks thing. Can we have another feud or do you not believe that they can't do it? Like, is Monet not willing to work with other people? Like I don't know.
I don't know Mercedes' contract details or anything else like that. If you believe the internet, she has creative control. I would believe that Mercedes probably gets to pick some of her opponents or who she wants to get into feuds with because, the way they view her and the way she views herself, she probably gets that type of luxury. So I don't know. I'd like to see Mercedes. I would have liked to have seen Mercedes and Britt go another, month here, but we've it seems like those two maybe don't get along in real life, so they've just decided to get that match out of the way.
Yeah, it seems like the match is over, and we haven't heard from Britt since, and I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I just wish Adam Cole would make his way back to AWTV.
I just hope he's okay, like to even be back, because I feel for his start, stop, injury, not great booking decisions, certain things just never lining up for the guy. And I brought it up on another podcast where it's crazy that depending on how it all shakes out, and Adam Cole's done decent for himself in the moments he has had with AEW, but from the NXT guys that have come through, it's pretty crazy to me, at least, that the odds are when it's all said and done, we're going to remember guys like Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole best for their NXT work instead of what they could have been doing. People wanted Ciampa and Gargano, they're going to be huge stars, and it just never worked out, on the main roster. And Adam Cole had these moments, but he's never really gotten to where it's sustainable. And it's just frustrating to look back and go, their best moments might have been in NXT, which is pretty crazy.
Well, it could be with Adam Cole. I think if Adam Cole was healthy right now, or it had been, he'd already be a AEW World Heavyweight Champion, maybe even
absolutely
multiple times by now. I'm not quite sure, but they don't really do the hot potato with the championship, especially that one. I believe there's only been 8 or 9 world champions in AEW
Very
history.
few, which is better. It's only 5 years and less than 10 champions. I like that.
Yeah, me too. I think Gargano and Ciampa probably are going to be best remembered by their NXT run. Same thing with Keith Lee.
Oh my God. Yeah. Keith Lee. Yeah.
So, and I would even say at this point, Karrion Kross. We'll have to wait and see though.
Oh yeah.
But Adam Cole is somebody I just wish was healthy, to your point too. That's got to be mentally draining, start, stop. So, I'm just hoping that Adam's good. It seems like he's on the way to recovery. Adam Cole. I think Adam Copeland is also somebody who's going to be popping up soon in AEW, who's making media rounds. So I just wish the utmost health to everybody on AEW's roster right now.
Absolutely. And who's not caring about the welfare of each other is Daniel Garcia and MJF. This is a blood feud, quite literally. This past week, blood. I thought MJF was going to wipe the blood on his nice white suit because he did that with Punk. You wear white. That's a very kind of tip of like, blood might be involved. You might wipe it. It's a huge deal. Maybe we see some white gear in this match for that particular reason, but kind of out of nowhere, Daniel Garcia returns, and which was great to kind of thwart MJF to get that revenge back. And now we get this match. I would say this is Daniel Garcia's biggest match of his career, dare I say. I think he's got to get a win here. I'm going to say Daniel Garcia gets the win by hook or by crook, and I don't mean hook interference. Drew, what say you?
Big fan of Hook, but I will say, yeah, I think Daniel Garcia, this is, I believe, Daniel Garcia's biggest match of his career. I know we'll get somebody on the internet who will argue with me. Go for it. I'm sure he's been in some sort of title match that probably has more prestige. Fine. MJF is a big fish in AEW's pond. And he, Garcia had a really good promo. He said that the tattoo was fake, which was all over the internet. Don't know if it's real or fake. I think Daniel had a really good showing on Wednesday. I think now's the time. Have him beat MJF. Have MJF kind of lose it like you got lucky. Have a rematch at Wrestle Dream in some sort of stipulation match in Tacoma, Washington, and go from there. But I believe Daniel Garcia's stock is only rising in AEW. A lot of people think he has the charisma of a pencil. I don't believe that.
We're not talking about Jack Perry.
I think that that Daniel's got a bright future, and I think that him and MJF are going to have a good match. You're very in tune with the white stuff too, in terms of gear, suits. When that normally gets broken out, expect blood. So we'll have to wait and see. I thought MJF's promo and his delivery on Wednesday was what you want from MJF too. The kissing of the blood was much, but hey, that's MJF for you. So
they drank blood in the match that we're going to talk about last. They drank blood in one of their previous matches. So I think anything's on the table, and I would,
they sure did.
They sure did. You brought up a good point. I'm going to go back to the MJF part of the promo against Will Ospreay when he was like, it was me, and then you came in, and now it's all like he lost it, right? And that type of, I honestly kind of compare that to Ric Flair. When Ric Flair would get nuts, he would just go unhinged, off the rails, and even though he's composed in ring, when you start messing with his mind, that's where he could slip a little, and that's where you get that Daniel Garcia victory and only make MJF's character better that way.
I think MJF, I agree with you. I think MJF idolized Flair and Piper, and I think you see that. You could see it in his promos, you could see it in his gear, you could see it in his mannerisms. Everything with MJF screams to me Ric Flair and Roddy Piper, and I get that. And to your point, Ric Flair lost a ton of matches and was still over like Rover, and was probably the most popular wrestler in the world for a very long time until Hulk Hogan came around. So for me, I think MJF, his stock is always high. He could lose this match and be just fine. I think now it's time to build Daniel Garcia.
Yes.
He's obviously back with AEW. Make a star. MJF's already there. I'm with you. I think this match could open the show, and I think it would be smart for them to do it.
You said it. It's going to happen. And if it doesn't, scream at him.
Here's my 2 picks for the opener. I'll only do this because I'm putting together cards at times is tough. I'm going to go with, it's either going to open with Danielson and Perry, or it's going to open with MJF and Garcia.
Okay. I don't mind the world title opening it, because that's what WWE has been doing, which is you got 2 world titles. Let's open and close with one. No matter what, you open with a great match, you end with a great match with no world title on the line, but the last match is going to be nuts.
Right.
You might as well put the world title first then. I don't mind that.
And that's my thing. It's, we want to start hot, right? And everyone was like, why would you put the ladder match and All In to start? I was like, well, it's going to be a car crash, number one.
Yeah.
So, and it was. And really that could set the tone. People are going to be like, holy shit, all this other stuff. Then you could bring them back down a little bit. I thought they didn't with having Tony and Mariah. I thought that was a shocker. But again, there's so many matches that could open the show. But for me, you really want to set the tone. I think the World Championships is not main eventing. It's Danielson. It's Perry. Have them open, or MJF and Garcia, because that's another main event type of match. And that's just what I would do.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I would throw the following match that we're going to talk about: International Championship. Will Ospreay, who finally got the title back, changed the name of the title. So that lineage, that very, very detailed and long lineage of the American Championship, is now out the window. international championship back on, defends it against Pac. Pac doesn't need to win this. Will Ospreay's only going to keep getting higher up, with the fans, with the company, and how they view him. This is arguably probably going to be the best match of the night. One-on-one in ring. You could argue that the steel cage match is going to be more dramatic and entertaining, but Ospreay and Pac, this has been a match I've wanted to see on AEW TV since I realized both guys could have that match, since Ospreay came to AEW. So, and much like Okada, Omega, like I mentioned, where week to week, it's nice to see these guys actually have story and not just be big internet guy that does great matches, but we don't know anything about him, or he's in Japan and we don't see it every week. Will Ospreay is a huge star. His song's over. His gear is amazing. He's got the crossover with Assassin's Creed. He's a huge star. So I think Ospreay wins this, but this will be a barn burner to say the least.
Yeah, I don't know much about Assassin's Creed, although I know it was very popular when I was in college in terms of like the first game that came out, because I remember people like flocking to buy it. Those were back, when people had to line up outside of GameStop to get the midnight releases or whatever.
Man, midnight releases for Call of Duty and Madden and
those days are gone. So the days of my childhood with Blockbuster and all that other stuff, which I think
I had Blockbuster too. Stop it.
I think they should. I think they should bring that back.
We're not that different. Yeah, of course they should bring it back.
They should bring back Blockbuster. I know people would be like, well, they don't need it because it's all. It was the experience of going there with your parents or your mom or your dad or whomever, and it was Friday night and there was a pizza and that it was just
pizza. There's one left still. You watched that documentary?
Is it
in Bend, Oregon?
Okay, well maybe when I go to Tacoma for Wrestle Dream, I'll have to take a car and go. But anyway,
take a car and go out there, rent a movie.
Yeah. Anyways, to your point, the Pac and Will stuff is good. I love it. I love that they have really made this something within the past 3 weeks. I want this feud to continue. I think it should. Will can easily continue this feud with Pac, have it bleed into Wrestle Dream, and maybe even further. They obviously have chemistry together. The chemistry in the ring is going to be off the charts, and Pac is so nasty. He's the bastard, but he's so nasty. And he just blends with Will as this villain so well that I think it's a match made in heaven. So for me, I'm going to go with Will at All Out. I could easily see them flipping the championship to Pac at a later date. Pac needs to get away from this trio shit immediately, in my opinion. That's just me.
And that was just by happenstance. We talked about that. Like, it's like, oh, who can we get? Oh, Pac. But then you get this match. It's like, well, we got to take him away from that. Like, it's such a huge roster, so many belts, and yet somehow it's still convoluted where it's like you're sacrificing something to give another great match, and it's tough.
Well, again, you could look at the booking and be like, okay, well, maybe they wanted to go with Will and Swerve at All In, and they didn't. So now it's like, all right, we got to pivot, because maybe Pac was supposed to have his moment at All In for the international championship, and it didn't happen.
Very well could have been the case.
What they've done, I think, is good. They pivoted MJF, all this other stuff. MJF needed to have a match. The match was so well received on that Dynamite 250 that they bled it into All In, which was the right call. Danielson winning was the right call. They've done a lot of things differently. I know Tony wanted Pac to have a moment at Wembley in England, but I just felt like the trio shit was forced. And sometimes sometimes you should have just been like, hey, listen, Pac, I know we wanted to have this moment. We're just not going to right now. It just doesn't really fit. It doesn't make sense. They took the Trios Championship off the Patriarchy, which was fine, but I could have liked to have seen that go on a little bit more too. I know Christian won that contract. For me, again, I just wish Pac wasn't involved in this. And I know Tony wanted to give him a hometown moment. I get it, Tony. It makes sense. But for me, I just feel like this was forced. Just me.
I'm sure he's watching and he'll hear that and say, you know what, Drew, you're right. I don't know how I missed that. I will have to treat our creative a little bit differently with the perspective of Drew Baydala.
Probably not.
Well, no, he'll just call you directly. You're on the payroll. He's got your number. He knows how to get contact.
Listen, I'll break some news here. Tony signed me to a massive deal. It's a lifetime deal worth $46 million. So I'm good.
You know what I heard, though? I heard that the deal was imminent and actually not signed yet.
I mean, the lawyers are looking at it. So my lawyers, his lawyers will get together. They'll have some talks. But right now, he's offering 46. I wanted 50. I think I'm just going to take the 46 million and be okay.
I heard your lawyer is Smart Mark Sterling, so it might not turn out very well.
That's rumor and innuendo. I have a very good
Oh,
lawyer.
man.
It's not
Okay.
Mark. It's not Mark.
But you are a Mark. Oh, got him. Got him.
Maybe sometimes. I don't know. You know
Yeah,
that
I think that's a derogatory term. I think we're all Marks. It's just the level of it to where it's a little nutty.
the term has never really overly bothered me, but what bothers me when I hear it is when you hear it from the boys and girls. It's like, well, they're Marks. And it's like,
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, but these are the fans that buy your t-shirts, that tune in to watch you on television. So you're basically calling them like nerds and dirt, and they're idiots. I mean, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to do that? For me, I don't shit where I eat.
I'm not really big on like the fans that refer to themselves as smart marks. It's like at this point, we all know what's going on. Like the smart mark term, I feel like was only prevalent in that early internet, early 2000s age. And then
when it was just the Observer and like the what was the other one? What's the one that I can't remember his name.
I always frequented PW Torch with Wade Keller.
No, and there's somebody else too. I'm missing him. He's a good dude. Been around forever. PW
Bill
Insider.
Apter.
No, who's PW Insider?
PWI Insider, Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson. The name was escaping me. Mike's such a good dude, and he's been around forever as well. Those days are dead. You're right, because everyone has the accessibility at their fingertips. Yeah. So I don't know. It's an old school term. I get it. I'm sure the old school boys still use it and girls still use it, but the Mark stuff is just weird for me. Like I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Anybody can have a show, like some schmuck like me having his own show. That's what we do.
I don't jump on everyone's show because some of them I'm just like, good Lord. But I will say that, you're very well informed, and you take an outside the juice box approach to wrestling, which is different. I don't like to go on and have the typical bullshit like, hey, so who do you think is going to win? I did one of those. No offense. It was just it's very cut and dry. Like, let's have a little bit of discussion. Let's have some dialogue. Let's talk. That's what this is.
Yeah.
You're not going to listen to someone be like, John Cena, Randy Orton, the New Age Outlaws are all going to win their match. All right, thanks for listening. Goodbye, everybody. I mean, who cares?
Yeah, this is banter. This is dialogue. These are two people, two friends, colleagues, mixing it up. This is what I like doing.
I like your
more
jersey.
Conversational.
Thank
you. Do you know what this jersey is?
That is the Pittsburgh Steelers 75th anniversary of the NFL jersey. I know what that is because
alternate. They only use it twice. This is the Pittsburgh, like the symbol of Pittsburgh. They use it twice. People refer to them as very ugly. Mine is Barry Foster, who in the two games that they I think played with it, the win that they had against Indy, he went off. So I got
that patch I remember vividly because when I was a kid, Boomer Esiason was playing for the New York Jets. And that was the jersey I wanted. That was like something, it's like, those core memories that you have.
Yes.
When that happened, when I saw Boomer and he was playing with the Jets and he had that 75th anniversary patch, it just brings me back to like the early 90s. So I have that jersey, the Boomer Esiason jersey with the patch. So the patch is always a home run for me.
I've got a sweatshirt with just the logo of the NFL 75 because
I
love it so much. Yeah, and this will be 30 years since then. It was in 94 when that happened. So look at that. I'm very apropos with the times. I like football season starting.
Yeah, that's a very good logo. The NFL did well.
Yes, I thought they did a very nice job with it. Better than the NFL 100. I thought that was kind of.
I have a bunch of merchandise. The NFL sent me some stuff from the NFL 100's gold.
You're on their payroll too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Who do I need to talk to, Drew? Come on.
Nobody. That's it's just not gonna happen. I enjoyed the gold trim around some of the stuff they sent me and whatnot, but I would agree. I think the 75th anniversary with the diamond is a nice touch. Very good stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's go to the final two matches. Maybe it's the first match on the show, but it won't be the last. Bryan Danielson defends his AEW World title that he just won at All In against the scapegoat. I said charisma of a penny in weeks past, Jack Perry. I have since walked some of that back because I like the creativity of the blacksmith on the belt. I like the odes to Raven, whether it's how he looks or him taking unprotected chair shots, handcuffed to a cage, a la Tommy Dreamer. I know Tony Khan's a huge ECW fan. He was at Jericho's final ECW match. Like all these things work. We've seen the hook with the blinded angle. That was Sandman. It's all ECW, if you really pay attention. So Jack Perry, I think, has actually grown on me a little bit. And I root for him. I can be critical of a guy, but if he's doing better and improving, I'm not going to deny that. I'll give him his flowers, as the kids say. So that being said, he's not winning this match. Bryan Danielson will kick his effing head in. They bleeped that out on Dynamite, and it was telegraphed. I'm like, I think he's going to say that line, and of course he did, but they didn't black out the screen. So I think Danielson's going to win this. But do you see some sort of angle, or how does this lead forth? Because I think it's pretty safe to say Danielson wins here.
We're gonna this will bleed into the main event, but I will say in terms of like where I think they're headed with the world championship. Obviously, Danielson's winning, so let's get that out of the way because it is what it is.
What?
Your statement about Tony and ECW, it's so spot on because I watch AEW, and I think this is part of the psychology that I'm happy that I have the degree in, or that I studied it, because it lets me see certain things, and you don't really need to have that degree to even see the things because Tony's talked about it. But I have always said, I believe a big part of AEW is Tony's love letter to professional wrestling, which is heavily influenced by Extreme Championship Wrestling. And you see that. There are so many different angles that Tony repackages and reuses that were done in ECW. I got killed for saying I believe Perry is Raven. And I mean, is Raven and Perry the same character? But he's got very similar qualities.
You can pick out the stuff. He's very calm in his demeanor now. He's a darker, brooding character. And again, it's not a bad thing. We have had this discourse with LA Knight where, he's like The Rock and Stone Cold. Okay, but Steve Austin was like everybody takes from other people. Originality is very difficult in the entertainment realm. And it's, if anything, just a nice homage, as long as they're not saying I'm Raven. Then I'm good with it. So more power to you, Jack.
Jesse Ventura went on Chris Van Vliet's show and said if there wasn't, I believe it was Buddy. I don't know if it was Buddy Rogers. He said, I'm trying to think of who it was.
That's the original Nature Boy. So maybe that's what you're referring to. But
there was somebody that Ventura named that was like, if it wasn't for him, there would be no Body. There'd be no Jesse the Body Ventura. And I was like, okay, so there you go. Like he borrowed things from that person, and that's what they do. Everybody borrows some things from somebody. When Copeland like completely cut the balls off of Starks on Collision that one time, and you're a ripoff of The Rock, and I was like, like we know it, but we don't need to like vocalize
it.
Yeah. And I like Adam. He's a good dude. He's great for the business, but I was just like, we all know it.
That segment was you can feel the tension of like watching that segment back, because they're both like, don't you dare continue this, because I'm going to just go off cuff and I'll continue this.
Yeah.
And that's why, Ricky Starks has not really been on TV. He hasn't recovered since.
And I thought it was, when he goes, that really set me over the edge. I was like, and I shared the same like sentiment as Copeland. I was like, ooh, I know what you were trying to say there. Like Edge is your former character.
Of course.
Playing into that. But a lot of people were like, oh, is this about the pay-per-view over the edge and what went on with that? And it was just like,
oh yeah. Well, that's the problem, is if you lead too much into that, it's like, well, the fans are going to look, how fans are.
Yeah.
We dive into everything. We're dissecting all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's all fans do. So they're going to go, oh, over the edge. Oh, is that a real shot at WWE? That's brutal. Oh, and it's a part of this company thing now.
And Edge was on that card. So, it was just, you left too much for the imagination there. And you're right. You left too much of a window then for people to jump through and have these assumptions. Jack Perry's not winning. Danielson and him are going to have a great match. And that's what this is all about. For me, I think this is Danielson having a match with somebody he views as a potential up-and-comer who's been around for a while now, but has really come into his own. So why not? It's safe. The big thing with Danielson right now is keeping him safe, because he needs to hold on to that championship for, I would say it's going to bleed well past 2024. I think it goes into 2025.
Yeah. I don't think, he could have a match with Swerve at WrestleDream, but I don't think he's losing it there. I think now that they've brought up specifically, if I lose this title, that's going to be it for me, full time. And of course, he'll probably do one-offs before he officially calls it quits and goes in the WWE Hall of Fame. But I think that bleeding into 2025, give him this lengthy title run. You have it. Why not? There's plenty of time for other people down the line.
Again, if you really pay attention and if you ask the right questions in these media scrums, which Brian does not like to do, nor does he really do many of them, Brian said that he would like to be on Australia for Grand Slam. So that's February. So you would assume, but you know what happens when you assume, but you assume that Brian is going to be on that card as the champion because they're going to need a hot angle, a hot program to sell tickets for that and to drive viewership and everything else like that. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Danielson's going to have a long reign here in terms of, I think it could end in March. I think Revolution could be the time and the place where Brian loses.
Okay.
That's just me. I mean, you could hotshot it if you want. Maybe it's not even a hotshot. Maybe it's what Brian wants. And Brian, does the full-time stuff until October and he does lose at Wrestle Dream. If he does lose though, it needs to be to Hangman Page. Hangman Page needs to take that championship off of Brian so that Swerve can chase him. That's what it needs to be. And the interesting thing here is that I think it was a little bit of a miss that Swerve didn't mention anything about getting his championship back from Brian.
Well, we'll transition to that. We both think Danielson's going to win, right? Yeah. Pretty safe to say. Let's transition to the final match of this thing as we close out this first video version long form of the Juice Box. Once again, I'd like to thank you, Drew, for being on board here. It's been great.
Happy to be here, man.
Absolutely, man. Swerve Hangman, unsanctioned, lights out, steel cage match. I've said it. A lot of people have said it. And it's not a bad thing to compare. I'm not saying it's exactly this, but I can see similarities where Strickland and Page are very similar to the AEW version of Rock and Austin. It is an easy comparison to make. They have a feud that's, many matches in now, but every match has really been entertaining and top of the line stuff.
Yeah.
And you brought up, Swerve didn't mention how he wants to get his title back. I think that is better for this program because it shows how insane both guys are, that they are just driven by the hatred and wanting to put the other one in the ground. It's bigger than the title. And I'm going to call back to Ultimate Warrior's tights at WrestleMania 7 in the retirement match against Savage. On the back, it was the title belt, and it says it means much more than this.
Yeah.
And that's like, I just think he's incensed. He just, especially with what happened on Wednesday, he wants to take out Hangman for what he did.
Yeah. And there's really not much more that Hangman could do to Swerve. I mean, burn down his childhood home. What is he going to do? Go, kidnap his kids? I think that's going to happen. What I'm saying is that I think the championship now will be the sole focus of these two. And I think Brian beat Swerve. So Hangman, if I'm writing, Hangman will do what Swerve couldn't, and that'll make Swerve even more angry and chase Hangman into whatever, show we're going to have, whether it's World's End, whether it's Grand Slam Australia, whatever. If Brian is going to drop that championship to anybody, in my opinion, it needs to be Hangman Page. Swerve can win this match. How many matches has Swerve won against Hangman?
Did he win the first one at Wrestle Dream? Because he won. I don't know if he won the first one, but he hang Hangman in the Texas Death Match. I thought he won that one.
Let's see.
And then they were in that triple threat with Joe, and neither won.
Right.
Which is, again, genius. I love it. That's why it's Rock Austin. It's a running thread no matter what they're doing. It's like, oh, Joe in the world title? Yeah, but look at these two guys want to kill each other. This is more important.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff with Rock and Austin, I think we just need to pump the brakes a little bit.
Well, I'm just saying the comparison of just the two guys, the AEW version. It's not at the same level, but it's the closest AEW has to a one-on-one feud with history, great matches, and people care. It looks like Strickland won at Wrestle Dream, and then I think Swerve also won at the in the Texas Death Match
in Full Gear. So I don't think Swerve has lost a match.
So to me, I would almost have Swerve win this. Hangman can't win, and then he wins the world title, and it's like, wow. Wow.
So I don't
But
know if I'm looking at 2 for Strickland and none for Hanger right now, and I know there's a third. So I don't think Hangman Page has ever beaten Swerve in a singles match.
yeah,
So I think Hangman Page needs to beat Swerve. I could see Swerve winning this match though, because of what Hangman did to his house. But
yeah,
I would like to see Hangman beat Swerve in this match. That way, Swerve becomes completely unglued, lost his house, lost the match. Hangman can have that over him, and then they could kind of bleed that into, okay, Hangman Page and Danielson if they want to go that way. I don't know how Page and Strickland have another match after this. I really don't.
it not soon.
Right. I mean, it could be down the line for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship,
The
but
title, I think this
can't be
is
a
like the
Wrestle Dream.
blow off to that. No,
Yeah.
it won't be a Wrestle Dream. And you said bleed into earlier. What do you foresee in this match? Blood, clearly. I mean, again, we talked about drinking blood before. What kind of weapons do we see? How insane will this match be? Do we see a flaming table?
Yes. I was just gonna say, I think Swerve will try and put Hangman Page through something on fire. There's no doubt about it. If he doesn't try and light him on fire himself. I'm just saying, I think that there's a possibility that we absolutely see a flaming table or something on fire where Hangman goes through it by Swerve. Little redemption, little payback. But again, I had to take a deep breath because Hangman Page needs to be the one to take the championship off of Danielson if we're headed that way, and Swerve needs to chase him. It cannot be the other way around, in my opinion. It's just a miss.
So you think Hangman will be victorious in this and finally get that win over Swerve?
I'm going to go Hangman here. I'm going to say that Hangman then says my time and my focus is now on, winning the world championship. I want Bryan Danielson or the winner after the Grand Slam match. And what they could do is they can have Swerve interfere in that match at Wrestle Dream, costing Hangman Page, and then we're off to the races again. Yeah. And then we could see something different. It all depends on Bryan, right? It really is all dependent on Bryan and what he is going to do and how long he's going to be around. If Danielson says, I'm done as a full-timer in Tacoma at Wrestle Dream, then I would 100% pull the trigger on Hangman Page winning the world championship there.
Yeah, and I really can't disagree with that. I think Hangman getting the win. Both guys are kind of in between. They're not face, they're not heel. They both just hate each other. Which again, that the fans loving both guys is where I'm attributing it to the biggest feud that AEW currently has, at least on the men's side, because Tony Storm and Mariah May are on a fast track to getting there. But I see a lot of crazy spots in this thing, and absolutely the flames will be brought up. Probably some barbed wire, probably some tacks, maybe glass. Real glass.
Oh, jeez. Knew that was coming.
But, well, come on. That's what we're doing. It's an AEW show. I can't. How can we do an AEW show and not talk about CM Punk?
Yeah. Oh, no, I know.
Because he's there, right? He's clearly there. Let's just waste our time with talking about someone else. But I think we're in agreement that Hangman will win this. Before we head out, I do want to ask you this.
Sure.
Just based in AEW's realm, what do you think the end goal is for this Jon Moxley situation?
It's an interesting one, Juice, because I sat back and listened to Tony answer the question on the media call, which I thought was a good call, or a good question on the call. And the caller basically asked, or the question was asked, what is Moxley? Is there a blood sport angle here? Are you going to work with Josh Barnett and everything else like that? And Tony said he has a good relationship with Josh and would help Josh out in any way, shape, or form he can, which was interesting to me because I originally thought that all things would point to Shane, right? This could possibly be Shane coming in as the WBD's hire to help out with the network and everything else.
You mean Shane McMahon of Raw Underground fame?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Kind of like, you remember ECW because Tony is an ECW guy. Remember Cyrus the Virus? Don?
Yeah, I know who Cyrus. Yeah, right. Yes, of course I know who Cyrus the Virus is.
Well, I'm just saying he was kind of like the network.
Yeah, he was the network for when they were on TNN. Yeah.
So I could see Shane McMahon being the network.
And and then he hires Don Callis. That'd be
well.
Real.
What I'm saying is Moxley is kind of his guys, and Moxley and Shafir and all this other stuff. I'm just saying Tony's a big ECW guy. When is this going to air? This is going to air what, today, tomorrow?
Yes, it'll air later on tonight. Yeah.
All right. So hopefully, if Shane debuts in Chicago at All Out, we would look, we'd look real nice here. If it doesn't happen, whatever.
Yeah,
But
crazy,
what I'm saying is, I thought all signs were pointing to that Shane was going to come in as kind of like this network representative, and that it was a WBD hire, and here's the media rights deal and everything else like that. Bang, bang, bang. I'm not quite sure with the answer I got from the question that somebody else asked. I don't remember, and I don't want to take credit for it, about the relationship with Josh Barnett and Tony Khan. So there could be a blood sport involvement, and I think maybe we're just grasping at straws with Shane. But the picture was leaked. Yeah. The picture was leaked for a purpose.
Yeah, because it wasn't leaked. It was. I mean, they both are like looking at the camera, like, oh.
Yeah. And I respect Tony, because what Tony could have said was, yeah, we did it on purpose to capture some buzz because Shane's coming in, but that's not what you do in professional wrestling. This isn't real. It's not the action in the ring is real. There's nothing fake about it. It's fixed. Right. But there's nothing fake about it. Right. For all the kids' earmuffs. I can't believe it. But there's a purpose, and Tony has stuck to his guns that it was not leaked on purpose and everything else like that. Yeah. So I think that has to be storyline driven. That's just me.
That's it's in my Twitter bio. Everything is a work,
It is.
Until I know, I'm not there, so I don't care how much information I quote unquote have. I don't know. I don't know any better than you. The only people that know are Tony Khan, like the people that are actually doing it, and even then, they'll work us and shoot interviews 20 years later saying, "Oh, well, they didn't know."
Right. Well, that's why you have a degree in journalism, right?
I do.
So there you go. So when Hulk Hogan went on Logan Paul's show and said, I never used my creative control, I was like, I want to be like, brother, there's been 12 people who have said you did and can give specific events and timestamps on when you did. So they all work everybody, to Juice's point. The boys and the girls will always continue to work people because they don't want everybody in. There's a select few that are able to be in, and that's it.
You mean the inner circle?
Yeah, that's it.
I specifically brought up Hogan bringing in Beefcake for the Butcher Starrcade 94 main event. Think about how that sounds. The Starrcade 97 debacle, the Finger Poke of Doom debacle, yes, and then the Bash at the Beach 2000 debacle. Right. 4 huge examples of that doesn't work for me, brother. Like, give me a break, Hogan.
Right.
I'd rather him just be like, you know what, I did. A lot of people don't like him anyway. What the hell does it matter then?
I have an immense amount of respect for Hulk Hogan for what he did for the business, but at this point in time, you could just be honest. I think anybody's going to give a shit, and I think
Undertaker's doing one man shows. I think you can back off of the kayfabe, Terry.
Well, I don't even think it's the kayfabe. I just think Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea wants Terry Bollea to be painted in the most positive light, and I get that. But at this point,
it ain't gonna happen, pal.
Right? It's kind of done. And speaking of done, before we get out of here, I know this is your stuff, but I wanted to ask you, we are at the end of the relationship between WWE and Fox. The final SmackDown is tonight. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting a nice little send-off, maybe more blackout bleeps and whatever. I think it's been a great run with Fox. I remember, again, right when AEW started with Dynamite, I had just moved to the state of California, and it was a weird time. Like I remember I missed the first Dynamite in Pittsburgh because it was the third week, and I wasn't living here anymore. And
they air that after it airs here in the Eastern and Central time zones, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I could watch it live. I found it live to where I could watch it at 5, which was amazing. Like football, everything. One of the best parts of being on the West Coast was I'm
10
done with
kickoff?
Sunday night football closes at 8:00, and I got more time. It's wonderful.
That's beautiful.
It was. So the Fox, I remember, like the red carpet and The Rock came out, and it was a huge deal. And I really feel like you mentioned earlier, it brought a lot of eyes that may have not been there, as crazy as that is for WWE. But all the football tie-ins, even the NASCAR tie-ins. I mean, NASCAR and pro wrestling have been intertwined for 30 plus years. And
when you're getting ads on the Super Bowl,
yes. And it's not the Attitude Era commercial. It's Super Bowl ads. It's the Fox robot, the football robot. You're tapping into a lot of stuff. I think Pat McAfee's inclusion now has only, increased that visibility across all entertainment realms and sports. So I think it'll be a nice send off for the Fox era, as it were. And I'm interested to see if they do pull a trigger on a 3-hour SmackDown. You know, like I said, 3-hour SmackDown, 2-hour Raw. Royal Rumble is going to be in February next year. Anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation.
There you go. Anything can and will happen in the World Wrestling Federation. I will say that, you know, without going too deep into the business side of what it meant for WWE to get on Fox and the partnership, the Cody and Solo stuff for me is not good. I don't think that
Solo could be better.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think Solo should be able to be like, hey, I'm next. Oh, okay, cool. I got next. It's like, okay, sweet. But for me,
he's handing Kevin Owens title shots. So it's like, I could just say I'm doing it. All right, I'm in.
And that's the thing. Like, I want Cody and Kevin to get into a program. I want Cody to get something he could sink his teeth into. I do believe we are headed towards a Cody and Solo match on the debut for the World Championship, or the Undisputed Championship, on the USA Network. And I believe that's where you see Roman. I think Roman screws Solo again. But for me, it's kind of like we saw this at SummerSlam.
We just did this.
Right. So this has got to be where Jimmy shows up with Roman, because otherwise it's the same damn thing. So for me, if this is where we're heading, that's what they're going to do. Great. But if we're getting just a regular match with Cody and Solo and Roman's just going to pop up like he did at SummerSlam, miss me with it.
Yeah, I think you got to, and we all talk about it. It's going to lead to War Games, probably Bloodline versus Bloodline. However you want to look at it, it's probably the Usos, Sammy, and Roman. And then eventually The Rock will say he was funding the other Bloodline, whatever it is. But you need to actually add now. We're getting, it's not August anymore. We're getting closer to November than we were. So,
and Roman sold that beat down well. Roman got the shit kicked out of him, and Jacob Fatu and all this other stuff. So now it's time for a little retribution, and not that retribution, but a little bit of payback for Roman. And I think Jimmy's 1A, and then I think Jay is 1B. So.
Absolutely. And I it's going to be riveting TV as always when we come into the fall, because they got to compete with the juggernaut that is the National Football League. So before we head on out, Drew, final thoughts on All Out. Are you looking forward to the show? Are you going to be in Chicago? You're a world traveler. You go everywhere for some of these shows. You know, some days you're like, you know what? I'm going to SummerSlam. I'll see you there. And then, I'm not going.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't see you at the WrestleMania tailgate. You left before the last day.
I did.
Or you're on Long Island. You're all over. You're in Texas for the residency.
Have to all in. Yeah.
You're doing everything.
Yeah, I do travel a lot. I want to thank WWE and AEW for the accessibility. They've always been good to me. I will not be in Chicago. My twin's birthday, my kids. I am not a twin, thank God. There's only one of me. And that's plenty.
We can only handle one.
Right, that's plenty. My twin's birthday is tomorrow.
Hey,
so I'd probably get a lot of crap from the wife. I was like going to Chicago, even though she's very supportive if she sees this. She was like, go. So I'm going to stick back. I'm going to watch it after we have a party for the twins, and I'll review it and whatnot. I'm not going to be at All Out. I am excited for the show. I think the time they gave for All In to breathe and to build to All Out was very, very smart, and it's helped. There's 3 or 4 matches on this card I'm very much looking forward to, and I think that is a lot when it's half the card for the pay-per-view. Going to be a good crowd. Chicago's always good. The next show I'll probably be at will be Bad Blood, and then Wrestle Dream. I won't miss Bad Blood, because if Punk's doing a Hell in a Cell with McIntyre, I'm there. Punk's my guy, so I'm there.
27 years to the day of the first Bad Blood and the first Hell in a Cell match.
And, you know, people say that Triple H isn't like a historian and stuff like that. He is. Triple H knows what sells, and good for him.
I like the he knows what Hell in a Cell's, and it's a 6 p.m. start time, which I like because the UFC pay-per-view later that night. Yes. UFC 307 will be at probably 10. So there's
is that the Vegas show?
I don't know.
Is that the Sphere?
At. I'm not sure. I know it's got Roundtree is going to be in the main event, but it's the earliest non-WrestleMania.
September 14th is the Sphere. Got it.
Earliest pay-per-view that's not like WrestleMania being at 7 o'clock since WrestleMania 10, which aired at 4 p.m. Oh, the days of 4 p.m. shows, Saturday night or Saturday afternoon Royal Rumbles.
Brother,
Monday
you don't. Tuesday, I was just gonna say you don't remember because you were probably -3. Yeah. But SummerSlam was a Monday night at Madison Square Garden
in '91. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Oh yeah.
And I remember the Rumble being at noon or 1 o'clock.
plenty of different times throughout the years. Taboo Tuesday, Cyber Sunday.
Yep.
Those got added in later, of course. But yeah, I'm looking forward to All Out. I think the main event's going to be nuts. Go ahead. You're going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I think, AEW's done a good job with this card. I think it's worth the $50. AEW consistently delivers on pay-per-view. This is not me shilling for them. If I thought their stuff sucked, I would tell you. But I think their shows always deliver on pay-per-view. If you don't want to spend the $50, I'm not telling you to go do this, but get together with your buddies. You could have multiple people on one account, which I'm sure they'll change.
Or just invite them over.
Yeah,
real
that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm having a bunch of my buddies in the backyard. We're going to put on the projector. We're going to watch it after my twins go to bed after their birthday. Maybe some wine, maybe some beers, whatever. But enjoy yourselves. That's what this is all about, getting together with people who want to enjoy professional wrestling. So I appreciate this, though, Juice. This was great. I love the back and forth. I love the conversation. It's something that I need. So I thank you for it. And you can follow me right there. That's my @ You want to come at me and tell me I'm a shill or I'm on TK's payroll or I suck, I welcome it all.
Bury him, folks. That's why I put the @ in there so you can bury him. Yep. But yeah, man, Drew, anytime you want, you're welcome back on for the Juice Box. Even if it's just audio, if we do video, we do audio, you're welcome for all of it. Your insights are very appreciated here, considering your business background. It's a perspective we don't normally get on this show. So that's what I'm, driving to the well for.
Well, I appreciate it. And I will tell you that AEW is going to be doing some big business, not Mercedes Moné, soon with the media rights and everything else that's coming up. I'm sure I'll get crushed for this, but I don't care. I believe that AEW is going to be profitable in 2025. So,
hey, 30 years to when WCW was profited for the first time in 1995, even though that was a terrible year across the board, quote unquote. There were some good matches, though.
I have another question before I get out of here.
Sure.
And you get out of here as well.
Yeah.
Do you think that Dynamite, like it's a goal for Tony to outdo Nitro in terms of episodes?
It's probably not probably at the start, but now it's a formality. Like it's going to happen. They got pay-per-views well in advance. I'm sure they got, even if they're going to have more episodes than Nitro. That's just how it is.
Do you think that bothers
Bischoff?
Yeah. You think that bothers Eric?
I think in a little bit, only because I'm sure he's not the best friends with Tony Khan. But to me, you got to look at it like this. It was never presented like that in 95 to 2001. It was just what it was. And it just happened to have so many episodes. Now that I can't wait for them to beat that. Like it was never an achievement for WCW to have that many episodes. That's just how many it had. And let's do it.
Do you think Bischoff wants to beat Tony? Or wishes he could beat Tony where he doesn't have to answer to somebody?
He had the money and not a lot of creative control, guys, Hogan. But if we're going to be we beat Nitro or the same people that, 40,000, that's not enough. We need 50,000. Okay, well, Dynamite isn't going to beat Raw. How many episodes Raw has? So choke on that, slap nuts.
Yeah, I agree. I think Eric, although I value his opinion, he's somebody who's in the trenches, who has done it. He's done a lot of things in the wrestling world, so his opinion is very valid.
For sure.
I think there's some resentment. I think Eric wishes at times he could have had what Tony has right now, which is nobody telling him to turn left or turn right. I think Eric would like that. So,
absolutely. And what I liked was this interaction. Drew, thank you again for being on. I still have you in my phone as Ticket Drew, so you will always be Ticket Drew. First name Ticket, last name Drew. But at Andrew Baydala, he's always on X, always on Twitter, doing fun stuff, doing little videos before certain shows, certain PLEs, pay-per-views. I might steal that idea, but it's not really copyrighted, so it is what it is.
I take it as a compliment.
Nobody
has time, Juice, to watch a 3-hour review.
No.
Maybe 60 to 90 seconds, man.
That's why this is, going to be an hour and 15. I can't go too long. I got stuff to do. We have lives. Can you believe it? We have lives.
I can't believe
outside
that.
Of this.
I can't believe that.
So,
I don't know how they're going to take that.
Probably not too well, but it's my show and I'll do what I want with it. So this has been great. You're welcome on anytime, man. And enjoy All Out. Enjoy the festivities with your kids. That'll be fantastic. Sounds like a great time. And I'll see you next time for the next time you want to show up. So appreciate it, brother.
Anytime.
Yeah. This has been the Juice Box with Andrew Baydala for the All Out 2024 pay-per-view predictions right here in the Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.